It's not what you know, it's who you know. We've all heard this before, but what does this mean? It's called networking. Welcome everyone to my channel. If you are new here, thank you so much for stopping by. My name is Ndidi Amadi. I talk about all things law school. Also subscribe if you are so inclined. So what is networking? I feel like networking gets a really bad rap because people see it as transactional. They see it as smooching, but in a negative aspect. They see it as tit for tat, quid pro quo. But what networking is, it's actually an intentional but organic way to build meaningful relationships within your industry or related industries. That's simply what it is. I'm going to be talking about professional networking within the context of a legal field, but I feel like these principles can translate to a myriad of different career fields. So networking, the goal of networking is to have a mutually beneficial, and I'm going to stop there, mutually beneficial. So it should, in theory, meet the needs of both sides of the parties, whatever the needs may be. It's not just one-sided. It shouldn't just be one-sided. And that's with relationships in general. That is a whole nother topic. But anytime you're dealing with a human being, you want to make sure that not only are you requiring value from the other person, but you are actually giving value to another person, because we all want to feel like we're not being used. We all want to feel like someone is looking after our needs and our expectations and wants to help us achieve our goals as well. So professional networking should be a mutually beneficial interaction connection. And the goal of networking can be fivefold. It can be even more folds than that. The goal could be to provide you with support along your career journey. It could be to provide you with advice. It can be to act as a mentor for you. It could be to share ideas. It can be to share genuine connections, interactions, bounce ideas off of one another. It can be so many different things. And I think that when someone starts to network and begin to actively network, they should have an idea of what they want out of it, but they should also leave it open to what it could be. So I know that when I was in law school, because I was first gen, I didn't know anything. And I spoke about this before. So it was this one attorney at the time she was a Black woman. She still is a Black woman. She had mentored several other of the young Black lawyers, law students at that time. She's now a judge. I keep track of her. But for me, she provided she was a listening ground, but she also wasn't judgy. She also provided a source of support. She would take me out to dinner. She would pay for it. She was a support. She was someone that I could just connect with, someone who was going where I wanted to go. But I didn't even seek her out. I think she just saw me and reached out. So I didn't even know what that relationship would be. So when you're going into professional networking, I think it is good to have a goal. I think you should have a goal for everything, but also to leave it open for what that interaction, what that relationship, what that connection could be, because you never know. You could be going in for support and that person could actually link you to somebody else outside of themselves who could become your employer, or they can connect you with someone who could become your best friend or your spouse. You just never know with who you are connecting with that can lead you to something that you never expected, but something that you always needed. So when it comes to law school, I know for current law students, and I speak a lot to current law students because I work with them currently, the end goal for networking is to get a job, whether that is clerkships, whether that is internships, whether that is summer associateships. That is the end goal for many people. And so networking can play a big role in not only your career, it can play a big role in your financial earnings in the long run. It can play a big role in your happiness, with your joy in your career because you have been led to a career that is fulfilling for you. So it could play a big role in your mental health. Also, not feeling so isolated. Once you have established your network and your network continues to expand, you feel connected to people in your field. You don't feel isolated. You feel like, this is the field where I belong. And I also think it helps with eliminating some of that imposter syndrome, because when you begin to network with people who are established, they will share where they were when they once were law students, and you will feel and get that sense that I am not alone. This person once felt the way that I felt, and now they are doing great things. So networking can provide those things as a current law student. Sometimes I feel like people don't engage in networking for different things. I feel like a common myth why people don't engage in networking is that they feel like reaching out to somebody, they don't have time, or they will be rejected, which can happen, but I would submit for your consideration that if you reach out to a working professional, they're most likely busy, and if they don't respond to you in the time frame that you think that you want, I wouldn't take it personally. Perhaps they didn't see your initial contact, or perhaps they couldn't get to it. So I think that's what stops people from initially reaching out to someone they want to connect with. Another thing I think that stops people is they think they don't have the personality to network. I consider myself an extrovert. Some people are introverts, and they feel like I don't even know what to say if I go to this networking reception. I don't know what to say at this job fair. I don't know what to say. In those situations, especially if you're an introvert, I would create a little mini goal for yourself. If you feel like it's just going to be too much or draining to talk to 20 people at this networking reception, I would set a goal of 3. If you were to say, when I go there, I'm going to at least introduce myself to 3 different people, or when I go there, I'm at least going to get 3 different business cards and follow up, then that is your set goal. So at least you know that you are in the game, you are making those connections, you're in the room, you're working the room in a way and in a manner that works for you. I want to share some steps on how to effectively network. And again, I'm going to be talking about this in the context of the legal field, but I definitely think that this could work across the line, across the borders. The first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to identify the people that you do want to network with. This will require some research. So for instance, if you are someone who knows that you want to become a judge, or if you're someone who knows they want to work in-house, or if you're someone who knows that the practice area they want to work with is in intellectual property, then you are going to curate a list of people who have done what you want to do or are currently doing what you want to do. And how you come about this list. I think LinkedIn is a great tool to find people. Filter, search it down. But I think it's easier to network with people who you have a common connection with. So if you are currently in law school, I would go on your law school's LinkedIn page. I would tap on that alumni button, and I would see the thousands of alumni that went to your school. And then I would filter it by whatever it is you're searching for. So say you want to get into litigation, I would put litigation in the search bar, and I would see all the different practitioners within that practice area, and then I would reach out. That's one way to identify people to network with. Another way to identify people to network with is within bar associations. Many bar associations, local bar associations, are accepting students, and most of those associations allow students to join for free. So I would look into those associations, I would attend those events. Another way to network is to identify people who you want to network with are by the speakers that come to your campus. Many law schools have events where they bring employers to campus, or they bring alumni to campus, or there's just a lot of events, alumni events, dinners, lunches, all types of stuff. That's another way for you to identify people to network with. It's almost like also endless people that you can find. That's the great thing about the internet. You can pretty much search for anybody and anything. But again, I think it's helpful for you and more time efficient if you have a common connection, because I think you'll be able to build a better relationship. And even if you don't go about the way of like searching for somebody, putting yourself in an atmosphere where people can find and connect with you. I had a student who took her law school book to the Starbucks and she was studying with the book. And because she had her law school book out, an attorney came up to her and was like, "Are you in law school?" And she was like, "Yes." So because of that interaction, she was able to connect with someone who is a practicing lawyer because they saw the law book. So if you are not actively looking for somebody to network with, put yourself in a situation where you can start a conversation or just be interesting so people will walk up to you and want to have that conversation with you. Identify those you want to network with. Then you're going to identify where you're going to network with them. So this could be associations, this could be mixers, this could be networking receptions. If you live in a major city or close to a major city like I do, there's a plethora of those types of things. You could be intentional about going to those things. Your law school could probably even have an events page. If not Eventbrite, type in law. Know what's going on, know what events are coming to the city. That's a great thing about living close to a major city. There's always something going on. If you're in a professional organization, they should have annual conferences. I would attend those. That's where you can practice your networking. You identify who you want to network with, and you can practice that you can practice who you're gonna network with. I also want to talk about networking with your peers. I feel like networking with your peers is something that is discounted or discredited because sometimes current students feel like, well, they're a student like me, they don't have anything to offer me. But here's the thing, law school's only 3 years. So in 3 years, those peers that you failed to mentor with, they will be practicing attorneys, and you never know where your career is gonna lead you. You might need to switch states. You might need to take the bar exam in a different jurisdiction. You might want to be in a different practice setting or practice area. And then you have the people that you went to law school with who are doing the things that you want to do. And another thing is, sometimes peers, they may be students like you, but they could be connected because their family, the family is full of attorneys, or they're just connected in a way that you are not connected with. So that's another thing. So I would also take advantage of networking with your peers. Law school, yes, is competitive, but it's also an opportunity to connect with people who are going to be fabulous professionals in the future. Speaking of networking with your peers, joining student organizations is another thing that you can do, because many of these law school student organizations will bring in speakers who are practicing in the area that you want to practice in, and that's another way for you to network. If you are currently a student, this is probably the easiest time to network, because at universities there's always a program going on, there's always speakers being brought in, and another thing, there's faculty and adjunct faculty. Many times adjunct faculty are still practicing law, so they still are practitioners within the field, and students sometimes only see them with that teacher hat, so they're not connecting with them. But if you are currently in a school, I would connect with your professors. You already know the professors are there to help students. You already know the professor's background. You know how to reach them. You know how to contact them. That would be a great place to start. And I feel like the barrier to entry is pretty easy because they're there on campus with you. So I would take advantage of reaching out to professors as well to network with them, connect with them, things of that nature. Another great networking tool is LinkedIn. Use LinkedIn to find professionals, use LinkedIn to connect, use LinkedIn to ask for informational interviews. An informational interview is just a way for you to ask somebody about their career trajectory, about what it's like to work where they work. It's not a place to ask for a job, but it's a short, brief introduction or reconnection with someone that you want to know a little bit more about them or about their career path. So you can use LinkedIn to ask for those informational interviews. The thing I would say about LinkedIn is before you start reaching out and really using it to network is build up a profile. And I'll probably do another video about LinkedIn and how to have a great LinkedIn profile, but I would build up your LinkedIn profile, and I would also provide value on your LinkedIn profile, content, things of that nature. And be social, connect with other people, respond on their posts, share their thoughts, so that when you are networking, people see that, you know, this person is really interested in engaging with other individuals, or I see what they're up to, I see what they talk about, that type of thing. As a student, another thing to do when you are trying to network is to utilize your school's Career Services Center. The Career Services Center will be dedicated to helping you find a job, and that would probably mean putting on job fairs, putting on programming, connecting you with alumni. So if you are currently a law student, I would take advantage of that student status and connect to your career services office or whatever it's called within your school, and attend the events that they have, because they will most likely, almost 100%, put on programs that will bring in practicing attorneys in different fields, so you can begin to know what it is you want to do, what it is you don't want to do, connect with professionals, build your professional network, and the possibilities will just be endless. I want to share some tips on networking. I've been doing it for a while, and it just opens up so many different doors for me. One, I meet interesting people. There's so many interesting people in this world. In addition to that, I learn about what people are doing, what's possible. Sometimes I hear about jobs or careers. I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing, but had I not come to this conference or had this conversation, then I wouldn't have known. I meet people from different countries. I get invited to different things, different places that I never would have been before had I not networked. And it just provides a more well-rounded life. It expands my social circle. I'm introduced to circles, conversations that I never would have had I not networked. So it's such a great tool. And I think if the word networking is throwing you off, I would change that, because sometimes the word throws people off and it just feels too stuffy and too like, I can't do this. So if the word networking is throwing you off, I would just interchange that with building connections, or building professional connections, building relationships, that type of thing. But some tips on how to go about networking. The first thing you want to do is be genuine. Don't feel like you have to put on a front, especially if you're in this professional environment or atmosphere. You feel like everybody is talking one way, or acting a certain way, or looking a certain way. Of course, obey social graces and social mores. I'm not saying that, but don't feel like you have to be something that is antithesis to your personality or to your character. Be genuine. Sometimes being yourself is a breath of fresh air. Be genuine. For me, I like to dress up. Most of the time I'm overdressed, so that's part of me. But usually when I walk into a room, people will compliment me on my attire. I'm being myself. That will break the ice. I'm bright. I'm bright. That type of thing. So that would be the first thing, is to be genuine and be interested in the person that you are meeting. Don't just speak so they can hear all about you, but be interested in other people. Most people do like to talk about themselves. So develop a skill for listening. Also develop a skill of remembering people's names, because hearing your name is possibly one of the sweetest things for an individual to hear. So learn how to remember people's name. When they introduce who they are, try to remember it. It's something that I'm working on too. I give grace to people because my name is not common in America. Ndidi is not common, so I know that people will forget it or say, I have to ask you that again. That's fine. But to develop a skill, it is something that I'm working on too. Remembering people's name, listening, being engaging, eye contact, being present in that present moment. That would be my first tip for networking. My second tip for networking is developing an elevator pitch. So that would be introducing yourself, talking a little bit about yourself, your background, and perhaps what you're looking for. This could be helpful in a job career fair, so that when you are in this environment where there's all these tables and you don't know what to say, and you walk up to them and be like, hey, and there's a big long line behind you. You don't want to waste anybody's time. But if, say, you're at a job fair, and you say, hello, my name is Ndidi Amadi. I'm currently a 2L at the George Washington University. I'm currently a student attorney at the legal clinic where I am specializing in family law. And I really wanted to speak to you about, I see your legal aid organization works with adopting children, or just something like that. You want to keep it cutesy. You want to keep it brief, but you do want to give the person some little bullet points about who you are and your background and what you're looking for. So having that down, practicing that before you even attend something like a career fair or job fair could be a very helpful thing for you, so you don't walk up to somebody and you're wasting your time and their time, because it's like, what are you here for? It's like, I'm just here for a free button. No, you want to be able to have a starting point. So practicing that, it shouldn't be longer than 30 seconds. Practicing that intro, I think, will be very, very helpful. Now, following up is another tip that I would say. And sometimes I hear students saying that, well, I networked, I went to the career fair and I got their business card. Then I asked them, well, what did you do with it? And it's like crickets, like nothing happened. You want to follow up, especially if you're currently a student, you want to get their information because they're a working professional. They might be a little bit more busy than a student. Get their information, follow up, whether it's an email, whether it's a LinkedIn message, follow up with them, remind them of who you are, and hopefully you were memorable. You can say, I was the one who asked you about that book you wrote about da 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 da. But you want to keep the connection fresh, and then you want to go for the ask. So the ask would be 10 minutes of your time via Zoom, or the ask would be, can we grab coffee if you felt like the conversation led to that, things of that nature. Sometimes when you meet people, they are looking to mentor somebody. So they will say, let's go for coffee. That's what happened to me in law school. I didn't really have to ask, but the attorney at that time was like, I'll take you out to dinner. I didn't ask her to, like, can you take me out to dinner? So that type of thing, you never know. But if they don't ask, perhaps you can go for the ask. And again, don't take this personally. It's not rejection. Sometimes people are busy. Give them time. After you reach out to someone, give it like 2 weeks, and then you can reach out again. After 2 asks, I would leave it and perhaps move on to somebody else. But you do want to follow up, and you do want to ask for that connection, because sometimes it's not always a given. The other tip that I would say is to stay organized with the people that you meet. Sometimes it's just easy to take business cards and they're thrown all over the place. But if you have like a spreadsheet, you can say the name, where they worked, where you met them, the conversation, follow up, that type of thing. Especially if you're a student and you have a lot going on, I think staying organized, remembering who you spoke to can be very, very helpful. I find that networking is something that people need help on. So anytime I don't know how to do something, I read. I read a lot. I learn about how to connect with people. I read this great book. It's How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. So reading books like that. But also I have several networking books. This one is Friend of a Friend. So this one, Understanding the Hidden Networks That Can Transform Your Life and Your Career. This one's by David Burkus. This one was written by a colleague of mine, Strategic Connections. The New Face of Networking in a Collaborative World books. And then this one was written by Ellen Poole, who's a great speaker. I heard her speak. This is Network is Not a Verb, the authentic way to build meaningful relationships. The authentic way to build meaningful professional relationships for lifetime success. And she talks about, when I heard her speak, how most of her jobs for like the past 20 years have all come through from networking, and she's led a great career. So if you don't really know how to network, I would find tools. Books are my go-to tools, but find tools on how to go about it. Because honestly, if you're not in the game, you are missing out, because there's people out here who are learning about jobs that will never be posted, or learning about opportunities that are only coming up over the dinner table or over a reception. And if you're not in the room, then you don't hear about it. So those are some tips that I have on networking. If this information was helpful to you, please share this with somebody else who could use some tips on networking. Like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, ciao.